You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome into RBLR Lightning. My name is Chris. And where the Lightning are currently on a 4-game win streak, and they're back from the cold, frigid tundra of Nashville, back here in Tampa tonight. And along with me to talk to me with this show is Jake. Jake, how was the trip up there, and how are you feeling? Are you nice and warm?
Oh, I'm definitely nice and warm now. I was freezing my butt off as well down there in Nashville. But I'll tell you what, Chris, the trip was unbelievable. It was seriously one of the greatest experiences I've ever had going to a hockey game, at least at the game and in Nashville. The event is 10 out of 10. The NHL hit it out of the park. It was so much fun. There were so many Bolts fans. We really did take over Broadway for those last couple of days, and it was just overall an unbelievable experience. I've seen all the photos from Bolts Nation. It was unbelievable, and the Lightning really showed out, which is awesome to show everybody that, hey, we are seriously one of the bigger markets now in the NHL. It's no joke.
Well, I'm glad you made it back, man. I'm glad you had a good time. We'll get into the details of the game and everything else about it here in a second. But before we do, some news really quickly. Obviously, Chernak took a pretty big hit that night. You know, he was out for the final 2 periods. So, to me, I think that was a little bit of a dirty hit. I think he got away with one there. To me, it looked like he left his skates. The refs let him stay in the game, and it was just ended up being a 2-minute minor. But obviously, a guy like Chernak, it's crazy because it's like, man, he just can't seem to stay healthy. And I was like, man, that's the last thing he needed was a hit to the head. And the last thing we need is him to go back out with a concussion or something like that. So he will be returning to the lineup tonight as we record here on this Tuesday. So I'm glad Chernak's back. I'm glad it wasn't anything more serious. So Jake, how did you feel about this hit on Chernak? Did you feel like it was dirty, or do you feel like the refs, made the right call?
Well, first of all, I said exactly what you said. Basically, as soon as I saw it was Chernak, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me again. This poor guy has just had constant injuries to deal with all season long. When I was sitting in the 114s of Nissan Stadium, and while I could see,
right,
it was definitely a different experience in a football stadium. It's a lot harder to see things. It was also cold, so I was not functioning at my normal brain capacity because I was probably, But when I first saw the hit, it didn't look bad, but I saw Chernak was obviously shaken up. And then upon the replay, you could tell he clearly got his elbow up and hit him in the head. So it was a hit to the head, and it was an elbow. As for if it should have been a 5-minute major or a regular 2-minute, which is what they ended up changing it to, I don't know. Again, I'm looking over here at a Jumbotron far away. It was hard to tell from being in the stadium. I didn't mind, honestly, them changing it to 2 minutes. I think that also happened because he did get back up and did stay in the game for a little bit. He did later leave, as you mentioned, but I think that maybe had something to do with it. Obviously, there was no lingering injury, which is good. That's very good news for the Lightning. We cannot be taking all these injuries to our defensive core. As we've seen, over the last couple of months, we don't have a ton of defensemen. That's one of the places we'd like to see the Lightning improve. Maybe in the trade deadline coming up is getting some more defensemen, especially on that right-handed side. So I didn't think it was the worst hit I've ever seen, but definitely worthy of a penalty. He definitely hit him up high, and something that you would not like to see in the future, just in general for anybody. Obviously, players getting hurt. So, but good to see that he's okay and back in the lineup. And let's just pray that he can stay healthy for the rest of the year.
I agree, man. It's been the injury bug for him and some of the other guys in the team, and I just want him to get some time on the ice, man. Let's
wrap him in bubble wrap.
Yeah, something.
That might be a good idea.
Anything, man. Anything to keep him safe. We're gonna need him come playoff time, and I want him to get some reps in with these next 2 months. Really, we're down to the final 2 months. I think we have 32 games left, if I'm not mistaken. after tonight. So it's really going to come down to it. So I think the key is going to be keeping these guys healthy and definitely keeping guys like Chernak healthy. Because like you said, we don't have a lot of defensemen. Cal Foots hasn't really fit in very well yet. So I'm hoping Bogosian can come back here soon. I think I did see Bogosian should start skating here within the next couple of days. So hopefully that's a good sign. He can get back on the ice and maybe split some time with Cal Foot, because I don't want to give up on Foot yet, but I don't think he's where we wanted him to be at as far as it goes in this point in the season anyway. So, and then some other news, Stamkos was named a third star of the week. This week for the NHL. He posted a 2-2-4 in 2 outings, including a 1-2-3 in the game you went to. Obviously, Stamkos leading the team in goals with 25 right now. So the dude's just playing out of his mind this year, and I couldn't be happier for him. I know we talk about it a lot, but I think talking about Stamkos is very important, because he's the guy who's been through so much controversy about trades and then his injuries, and he can't stay healthy. And it's so cool to see him finally be able to play back to where he looks fully healthy, man. He looks great on the ice. He's seeing the ice very well. He's getting some really good shots in there. So Jake, I know you're probably pretty excited about Stamkos being a third star of the week, and especially you got to see a goal live up there in Nashville.
Absolutely. I've been defending Stamkos for a while, and people try to give him such a hard time for having the injury bug all the time and getting hurt in big moments. So I'm really happy for him right now and the success that he's having. He's really stepped up this year and shown everybody he's like, hey, I'm still here and I can still play at an elite level. And that's exactly what he's doing. And actually, the goal was literally right in front of me. I mean, I had a perfect view of that. So that was awesome to see. He had a fantastic celebration as well, the fist pump and all. So very well deserved for Stamkos getting that third star of the week. He's been on fire. And you know what? We're going to need it to continue all the way throughout the season. I don't think it's crazy to say that despite the Lightning being back-to-back Stanley Cup champions and definitely having a good shot at winning a third one here, there's a lot of good teams in the NHL this year. Carolina's improved, Florida's improved, heck, even Toronto's I think has improved a little bit. Like there's a lot of teams that have gotten better since we faced them last year, and we're going to need every ounce of star power that we have to be in full force by the time the playoffs roll around.
Yeah, it's really good to see a guy like Stamkos just coming out and playing to that captain mentality that he's got, and we know he's capable of. So I'm really glad that he's having the season he is. He's really stepped up, man. There's a lot of pressure on a guy like Stamkos coming back from all these injuries, all the adversity, and really leading this team when guys like Kuch and Point are out. So really, really happy for Stamkos right now. I'm really glad he's on the team. That's really all I had for the news tonight. So we can roll on into this Stadium Series game, which obviously was, something awesome. I never thought I'd see a Tampa team, playing in an outdoor game, but this is where we've come. I think they said we had over 20,000 Lightning fans at this game. I thought the show was produced very well. I'm not a big country guy myself, but my wife definitely enjoyed the concert, so they must have done something right with the singing. I don't know many country songs, but she was having a good time watching it. So I think they did a really good job overall. The ice was a little, it's hard to maintain the ice and outside with the humidity and everything. So the ice to me, watching the game was a little weird. Like the camera angle, I don't think was the best. I couldn't see the puck at times around the board. So kind of glad it only happens every now and then. But I think it was still cool to be able to see them, go out there and get to play this type of game. I think it's cool for the Lightning. We've come a really long way. So Jake, before we get into, the game and overall performance, man, give us the details of all the inside scoop of how the Stadium Series was.
Oh, man, again, it was seriously unbelievable. I know a lot of people were complaining that the NHL didn't market it well. Apparently, that's been going around a lot, but the actual event itself and being there was amazing. I mean, I flew into Nashville on Friday, the day before the game. We went down and we're hanging around on Broadway for a little while, checking out some of the bars and local places there. And there's just everywhere we walked, there were Bolts fans everywhere we went, just constant blue jersey. It was so cool to see all those Lightning fans out there. And you mentioned the 20,000. That's what the team said they sold in tickets. I think there was more than 20,000 there. I think a lot of people expected it to be like, I don't know, 80-20 maybe for Preds fans to Lightning fans, but honestly, it was more 60-30, 60 or 35 even. There was a lot of Lightning fans out there, which was really cool to see. Nashville's a great city in general. They've got tons of live music, tons of things to do, great food. Almost everywhere we ate was awesome. The players I know were walking around and fans were having fun meeting up with them. I saw tons of photos. And then game day itself was an even better experience than the day before. The Lightning players dressing up in their Canadian tuxedos with their cowboy hats on was awesome. We saw the quote-unquote team bus. They were actually on a party tractor that was pulled by a literal tractor down Broadway. That was awesome to see. The players were having a ball with it. The NHL had all different concerts, all different types of competitions you could do in the pregame. They had skills competitions, hardest shot kind of things, more great food at the game before there. The Stanley Cup was there, which was awesome. To be honest, I'm so used to the Stanley Cup at this point, it doesn't even shock me all the time now. But everything was great. I keep saying that, but it really was. It was definitely cold. We, being from Florida, had a lot of hand warmers in our pockets and in our shoes, and where we could stuff them because it was cold. No question about that. But then I'll tell you what, we then walked into the stadium when the gates opened. And, I was excited for the game up into that point and getting more and more excited. But then you walk into that stadium and, it's just, you're at a loss for words. It's a beautiful sight. The ice looks fantastic when no one has been skating on it quite yet, but it looked great. I love what they did with the set around the rink. And the whole, music symbols, the stages were very cool. And then as the stadium started to fill up more and more, it was awesome. Awesome. And I'll tell you what, Nissan Stadium, identical to Raymond James Stadium. So for any Tampa fans there, they might even know where to go a little bit better than some of the Preds fans because they've been going to Raymond James because they're, I believe, built by the same company as well. So they're literally basically identical stadiums minus the pirate ship. But yeah, then getting to the game was awesome. The presentation, the first intermission concert, they had the live music during the TV timeouts. All of that was great. They had all that stuff on the Jumbotron. So if you couldn't see it, you could always look there to be able to watch the game. But like I said, definitely harder to see, but you could still see, as someone who watches a lot of hockey, as it be, but I was still able to follow the puck very well. So it wasn't even really that bad. And I think people in the 300s even enjoyed it up there because you can see the whole ice from up there. And it was a lot of fun. And obviously, we'll get into this in a minute, but winning the game made it that much better. Being able to high five all the Bolts fans around us was awesome. We had an entire row of Lightning fans where we were sitting, so that was really cool. But 10 out of 10 event, fantastic. I hope we get to do it again soon, maybe in Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you a question that I gotta know. So 69,000 plus people there. How long was the line for the bathroom?
It was long. Here's how long it was. I literally walked up to the front. I'm like, okay, all right, there's the men's bathroom suite. And then I looked and turned back and I was like, oh, the start of the line's like way over there. I also realized I'm making motions you guys can't see
awesome.
Me. But
right.
I literally walked all the way up and had to walk 10 feet back because the line was all the way back there. But again, worth it. 100% worth it for that kind of experience. It was unbelievable and fantastic.
Yeah, no, all jokes aside, I just figured I had to ask you that because I was like, man, that's a lot of people in a stadium, man. It's cold. Like that's a long line to wait in when it's that cold outside. And I don't do very well.
I'll tell you what, though,
cold.
Most people stayed out in the stadium or watching the games and the concerts because that's one of those events that you do not want to leave your seat. And the only reason I did is because I really had to go to the bathroom because I kept drinking a lot of hot chocolate just trying to stay warm. But yeah, a lot of people did stay in their seats. So that made it even more special that the stadium was just constantly packed with fans.
Glad you had a good time, man. Glad you made it back. Sounds like it was awesome. I wish I could have made it up there myself. But you never know. Like you said, they hinted at maybe getting one at Ray J. I don't know how well that would work out with our humidity and everything, but it would probably
be hard to pull off.
It would have to be like one of those really cold planned days, and somehow it works out outside. I think it would be really cool to see. Don't know how well it would work out as far as the weather goes, and being on the ice might be a little chippy, but it would be cool to actually be able to go to an outdoor hockey game in Tampa. That would draw in some fans. That
Hey,
would
with
be
the way
very
the Lightning
interesting.
showed up, though, I wouldn't be surprised if they get invited to another one soon.
Yeah, that's what I
because
heard.
They
Yeah.
showed up.
That's good, man. The Tampa fans really showed out. The one thing I did about the game too was the audio was a little weird. Like you couldn't really hear when people were cheering or any kind of chants, and when the goals were scored, it didn't seem that loud on TV. I don't know if they were having technical difficulties, but once they panned around to the crowd, you could see all the Lightning fans cheering and being loud. So I think the volume was just a little low as far as the TV goes.
Well, what's funny about that? You mentioned the audio being, again, farther away than you normally would in a hockey rink. They actually had speakers set up around the rink, and they were pumping the ice noise through the speakers. So it sounded really different, obviously, coming out of a speaker and being so far away. It still sounded pretty good, I thought, in person. I did hear that apparently some of the speakers might not have been working up in like the 300s level. I was not up there, so I can't speak that to myself, but I did hear about something going on with that. So maybe there were some technical difficulties. And again, I don't know how it was on TV, but it sounds like there were a couple of issues. But at least down on the 100 section, it still sounded pretty good.
Yeah, it was definitely weird seeing, everyone sit so far away from the ice. And like I said, all the angles of the camera weren't the best to the start. I think I got used to it maybe in the second and third period, and I kind of realized I had to follow it a little more than I normally do. The puck was definitely hard to see around the boards at points, but it's one game. It was a fun game. It was something cool to see. The Lightning have never done it, and guess what? Now we're undefeated in the outdoor series games to start off. So if we ever get invited back, we won our first one. So we can get into a little of the details of the game. We had it. We won it. We ended up winning the game 3-2. Kucherov, Point, and Stamkos all got on the board, so our big 3 stars showed up. This game was a chippy game, man. From that hit from Chernak, it was like they were talking about how much Nashville led the league in fights and penalty minutes and all this. So they even said Pat Maroon was probably going to fight before the game. And what do you know? Pat Maroon did drop the gloves, and it was a very, very chippy game. Nashville had been playing really well this season. They've come on pretty strong here towards the middle of the season. So I was expecting it to be a tough game. I told my buddies I thought it'd be a 1 to 2 goal game. So Nashville kept it close. They hung in there. I think it took the Bolts a little bit to get used to the ice, as I would expect. It kind of came out a little sluggish in that first period. Had some good chances, not the best, but I think as the game progressed, the Lightning got, kind of got their skates under them, as they would say, in that kind of situation where the ice is not in the best shape, come third period when it, and later in the second period. So how did you feel about the game overall from the performance of the team?
Yeah, so first period, obviously going down 1-0, it definitely, like you said, looked like the team was trying to adjust to playing outdoors. It's obviously a very different experience, and most of our guys having never played in a game like that before, that makes it a little more difficult. But the key for me was the second period. The Lightning played probably some of their best hockey all season. In that second period, they obviously scored the 2 goals and end up retaking the lead. They cashed in on their power play opportunities, which was also key. It's something we talked about all season that struggled, but it looked fantastic in this Stadium Series game. So that was good to see. And in the third period, they held down the fort, got a little close there for a little while, and it made us Lightning fans there nervous. But they held on and ended up getting the win. Stamkos was huge in this game, obviously, as we talked about earlier with him being the 3rd star. He's one of only 3 players, I believe, to have been a part of or have at least an assist or a goal on all 3 of the team's goals in their first Stadium Series game. So that's pretty cool as well. Stamkos in So very few company when it comes to that, but the second and third period were very good from the Lightning. It was definitely a slow start, but again, that's kind of to be expected when you haven't played a ton of games in the month of February at all, and you're playing for the first time outdoors. But fantastic job by them in the second and third period. They held it down, got the win, and for the most part stayed healthy. So that was the most important thing.
I agree. The healthy part's definitely important. And, you talk about the power play, which we always talk about and how it's really got to get things going. They went 2 for 4. It was sitting at 20% now, 17th in the league. So hopefully this is a start of things to come. I think with only playing, 5 games in February, I just don't think that the power plays really had time to work together and get things going, minus practice here and there. So with all these games crammed up in March and, in April, I think that the power play is going to come along. We're too talented for it not to come along eventually, right? Like, we're not going to go on these 0 for 4s and 0 for 5s anymore. I think we're going to start to get things going now that we can finally get some games played and get some games going. So I think all things forward with the power play, I think it's going to look good. We showed a lot of grit in this game too. We didn't back down from Nashville like we would a couple years ago. Guys like Pat Maroon stepping up and making some big plays for us in that game, and it was a fun game to watch. It really was. I really hope that we can get back in another stadium series and get to do it again. Before we move on from this game, though, how did you feel about Vasilevsky's performance in this game? I guess being on this kind of ice, it could be something different for a goalie, not used to seeing the glare and the reflections. But I feel like Vasi played really well in this game. I don't think anything bothered him. He had some good saves. I don't think he cracked under pressure at all as far as being, our first stadium series game. So how do you feel Vasilevsky performed in this game?
He did what he always does and played out of his mind. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
You're right. Normally some goalies might be affected by that, but he looked great. The goals that Nashville did score were ones like the one on the power play where it was, I forget who scored it, but it was wide open on the other side of the net. No chance for Vasilevsky. He made a couple of big saves, too, to keep the Lightning in the game. So he was great. I wonder if Brian Elliott gave him a couple pointers on how to handle some of the ice and the conditions, because Elliott played in the Stadium Series game himself, which he won, by the way. I'm sure Elliott gave him some pointers there, but Vasilevsky was fantastic, and it's you come to expect it at this point. I mean, you really do. It's quite crazy how good he is night in and night out, no matter where the game is.
Yeah, and like I said, it was overall, we got the win. We're 1-0 as far as Stadium Series go, which is great. Lightning are currently on a 4-game win streak, so couldn't ask for much more than that right now. I think we're going to start seeing us play some of our best hockey with these injuries finally healing up. Guys, coming back like Bogosian, and I'm really hoping Foote can settle in and help this defense out a little bit. But I think come playoff time, I think we're going to be fine. These guys know what it takes to get the job done. We got the right team to do it. So with that being said, I know you guys talked about the trade deadline a little bit last week on the show. And there's a couple big names out there. I did see that, you guys talked about Flip Forsberg. I did see that today Nashville was denying that rumor of that happening. They said they want to keep him around. So I don't know if that one's going to happen or not. There is some other guys on the list, though, man. There's some big name guys. Claude Giroux's on there. You got Brock Bozier of the Canucks. Fleury's on there for the Blackhawks. Obviously, we don't need a goalie, but there's Anton Khudobin for the Stars. JT Miller, and JT Miller was next Lightning. So there's some good names out there as far as the trades go. So I don't know if the Lightning are going to make a move. I know it's going to be tough if we do. I'm with you. I think we could use some extra help on the defensive side of the puck. Like I said, I don't think Foote's really panned out to be as good as we wanted him to be at this point. So, I don't want to go limping into the playoffs, but we could use a solid defenseman. So, Jake, have you heard anything as far as the Lightning making any kind of moves? I know the trade deadline's still a little bit away, but is there any guy you have your eye on that you would like the Lightning to maybe take a shot at if it's worth it?
Well, first to speak on Foote, obviously he's not jumping off the page at anybody, but to his credit, I do think he played a good Stadium Series game. He had that great pass to Steven Stamkos to get that eventual game-winning goal. So shout out to him. He did play well in that game. Hopefully that continues. As for the Lightning in trades, listen, what I would like to see them do is find some, maybe some depth kind of defenseman, like when we went out and got Zach Bogosian. Who hopefully should be coming back soon. Something like that is where they can do. Build some depth on that right-handed side specifically. that is minimal money where it's much more easier to make happen. But the reality is the Lightning, when Bogosian comes back, they have $0 in cap space. They have literally $0. So in order to make a big trade, for one of the bigger names that you mentioned, you'd have to involve two teams and do a double retention to even remotely make it close to being working, and then a player has to be going out as well. So you could take, Cal Foote if you're trading for another defenseman to upgrade, but any trade the Lightning do, another player has to be going out as well. So it's going to be very difficult for the Lightning to make moves. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? I don't know. I think at most we see some depth moves, but I don't expect them to make any huge moves. It'd be nice to go get a guy, like, I don't know, John Klingberg. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I've heard him rumored around there a couple times. But to get a guy like him again, you've got to basically involve two teams, get that 75% retention, and then a roster player has to be out on the move as well, because the Lightning do not have any cap space whatsoever.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think we make the move. But if we did make that move, who do you think we would have to give up to get one of those bigger name guys? Do you think it would have to be a big star on our end, or do you think it'd be like a middle of the pack guy?
I mean, it kind of depends on who it is.
Right.
If we're talking big stars, if you throw out a couple first-round picks in, depending on the team, you could probably get away with it. That also depends on it, right? Who they coming from? If it's a team that's kind of on the fringe, maybe they're willing to take some draft picks. If it's a team on the lower end, they're definitely going to want draft picks. But if it's a team on the higher end, well, I don't know if they'd be trading guys in the first place, but they would want, obviously a very much high-caliber player. As for who the Lightning would trade, Cal Foote is probably top on the list that has still potential and could be moved out and wanted by other teams, and has somewhat of a cap hit a little bit. He's probably the biggest name on the defensive side that I could see them moving. Maybe Jan Ruda. I don't know if I love that idea, but, just to throw some names out there. And then on the forward side, it's tough to at least move a roster spot out. Maybe one of the rookies in Kachuk or Radish. But again, they've been playing well for the most part when the time they've been in. You could try and move a guy like Palat, who's had a contract year coming up. But again, Palat's been fantastic for us, so I don't see reason to do that. I know a lot of people have been wanting Killorn to be gone for the longest time because of his cap situation. But again, Killorn's been great for us as well.
Yep.
So there's, especially on the forward side, there's just not much I see going out that it would hurt us in the long run. So I don't think if it's going to be anybody, I think it's going to be a defensive move. Although I wouldn't mind to see getting somebody that could help out on the power play, because that's still, despite them playing well against Nashville, still probably my number one concern. But again, you got to send out a guy like probably Radish or Kachuk are probably my two biggest ones, but they have very minimal cap hits as well. So it's tough. It's really tough. Maybe Joseph, but he's really good on the penalty kills. So again, it's like every guy you look at,
Right.
just has a downside to him. So I don't know. It's going to be tough for JBB, but if there's anybody, a guy that can pull it off, it's him.
It's fun to talk about trades, maybe the what ifs of, do the Lightning need to make a trade? Probably not. I'm perfectly content with the team we got. I think the lines have played really well together this year. I think it just comes down to us playing more games consistently, getting past the Olympic break and the All-Star break and a lot of time off and injuries. We're finally healthy. So these last 2 months, I think, are really going to be, you're going to see some really good hockey from this team that we know we're capable of. So if we make a move, we make a move. I'm going to support it. If we don't, I'm going to support that too. I'm okay with whatever right now. I don't think there's a desperate need for us to have. But sure, depth would be great, but at what cost? What's it going to cost us? So I don't want to lose, a star player right now. I don't really want to lose anybody, honestly. I'm perfectly content with the team right now. Like I said, on the defensive side, I think things will get going here once we play some more games. So
Chris, what's the famous saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it, right? I say that a lot.
There's not a huge, but again, listen, if we could get somebody, go for it. There's no reason not to upgrade,
right.
But there's a lot going well for the Lightning right now. They're still one of the top. Heck, they might take over the top spot in the Atlantic Division right now, with Florida only being 1 point ahead as of this recording, and we have 2 games in hand on them. So it doesn't seem like there's much reason to do anything. Basically, the point is, if it's too hard to make, where you mortgage even more your future, do all these cap gymnastics, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Right. And you know, like I said, I think the team's going to be okay. And like I said, if we make one, we make one. If we don't, we don't. We're okay. There's not a desperate need, not a big hole in our roster to currently fill right now. So we do have a ton of games coming up here, though, man. And March and April are absolutely jam-packed, full of hockey, full of Lightning hockey. You know, I feel like I've watched 2 games in a month. It's the way it feels. Like we've had 1 game and 8 days off, and it feels like it's been way too long. You know, I'm used to games being every other night. So these next 2 months are going to be awesome. I'm definitely in the mood for some really good hockey heading down the stretch. So as we record here on this Tuesday, you know, we have the Senators tonight. Can't overlook a team like the Senators. You know, they play us tough sometimes. So I think the Lightning sometimes get in their head a little bit, and you know, we overlook these kind of teams. So you got a team like the Senators. We don't want to overlook that. We have a lot of road games this month. And then we got this 3-game home stretch right now with Senators, the Pens, the Red Wings. We do have a back-to-back currently coming up between the Pens and the Red Wings. So I would expect to see Elliott at some point in this game, probably the Red Wings game. I would think Vasi goes against the Pens Thursday. And then maybe Elliott will take the reins on Friday, give him some time, give Vasi some rest. And then we have the Blackhawks too on Sunday. So that's all before we even record here next week on Tuesday. So that's 4 games, you know, crunched down. So I think we're going to see the team get going like I talked about. So, Jake, is there anything in these 4 games that you wanted to point out or need to talk about?
Not specifically in these next couple upcoming. I mean, just general to talk about these next 2 months, as you mentioned, it's going to be hectic. This is where the sprint of the season starts, and this goes for all NHL teams. The Lightning have 3 back-to-backs in each of the next 2 months to finish off the season here, and then they got a long road trip upcoming this month, where they're going to be going to Chicago. This is next week, to Chicago, then to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle. Then they come home for just 1 game, and then they're right back on the road again. And then they do have a larger homestand when it comes to April, which will be nice for the team. But in that month, every day it's just a 1-day rest at most. There's no 2-day rest for the Lightning at all next month. But in these next couple of games specifically, obviously got the Senators tonight as of this recording. Actually, Cal Foote doesn't look like he's going to be playing tonight. It's going to be Schuster popping in there. So that'll be interesting to see, as we were just talking about him. And then Pittsburgh's a big game because Pittsburgh's obviously a very good team, another playoff caliber team. You expect Vasi to probably start in that one, as you mentioned. And then that'll be a good way to see where the Lightning are at again against some of these better teams. Ottawa is a team you expect them to beat, but you obviously, any team can beat anybody, as I say all the time. And then Detroit, we always have some weird games with Detroit. Detroit likes to play those kind of games. Heck, one of their last games against Toronto, it was 10-7. So who knows what's going to happen with that game? It'll be interesting to see. Heck, even earlier in the year, we had that crazy game against Detroit as well. So listen, at this point in the season, this is where you want to get hot, right at the end of this month, heading into the last month of the season. But this is where you want to stay hot, try to stay healthy as possible. You don't want to have some injuries heading into the playoffs. But it's going to be a grind, and this is going to be a real test for this team coming up here in this next 2 months.
Yeah, and I think this 3-game homestand is huge because after that, man, it's 6 straight on the road. We only have 5 home games this month, as we talked about before we went on the show here. So this homestand's big, man. I think we need to get some, keep this momentum going. We got that big West Coast road trip coming up. The Jets, Flames, Oilers, Canucks, Kraken. Like, that's a tough trip. I mean, the Flames have been playing really well. The Jets always put up a good fight. The Oilers, they played us good. McDavid's very fast and hard to stop, as the Lightning struggled to stop him. So this, you only having 5 home games. Lightning are pretty tough to beat at home. So we're not bad on the road either. But that's a tough trip. So I think starting off this homestand, these 3 games is going to be huge as far as momentum goes, going on this big road trip here. So, you talked about the around the league a little bit, and when you look around the league, man, the Lightning are currently sitting in second. We're a point behind Florida as we record here on this Tuesday. But the Maple Leafs have 3 straight wins. They're now tied with us with 74 points. Boston's on a 5-game win streak with 68 points. So these top 4 teams, Panthers, Lightning, Maple Leafs, and Bruins, have really separated ourselves from the bottom 4. Those are going to be the 4 that are going to get in from the Atlantic, barring a crazy push from the Red Wings or the Senators. So, Canadians or Hurricanes, 5-game win streak in the Metropolitan. We talked about the Penguins. They're a very good team. They're going to be a dangerous team come playoff time. And obviously we got to talk about Colorado, right? Colorado is sitting at 82 points, 39-10. They've been on fire. So that's a potential Stanley Cup matchup between the Bolts and the Avalanche. So lots of win streaks going on around the league. I think the top 4 teams are really starting to separate themselves in each division. A couple of the Pacific team divisions a little closer than the others, but this is it, man. This is crunch time. These last 2 months are huge. I think the biggest things are going to be to stay healthy, play smart. Don't start taking dumb penalties now. I think working on the power play, I think that's going to be the biggest key, is working on this power play and getting it going, because if this power play gets going, it's going to be dangerous to stop. And, we talk about it all the time, how you're not going to get many calls come playoff time. So it is going to be crucial that we score on the power play chances that we are given come playoff time, because we know it's hard to stop guys like Cooch, Stamkos, and Point all on the ice at the same time. Plus Hedman, man, that's a dangerous power play. So I think all those things got to start getting going here. Anything you wanted to say around the league, Jake, that you see that sticks out to you currently?
The key is going to be to watch the Atlantic Division. I wrote an article a while back on this and how I think it's actually going to be really important for the Lightning to try and win the Atlantic Division, just because Florida is extremely good at home. Like, it is seriously, it's crazy what the difference is. They've scored like 120 goals or something like that at home. Yes. And then on the road, it's only like, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's like 60, 70 or something. Like, there's a huge difference in every stat you look at for the Panthers, whether it's on home ice versus the road. So obviously the Lightning can beat anybody anywhere. It doesn't matter when you get into the playoffs, but it's something to look at. I do think home ice would actually be a huge help against the Panthers, and obviously you don't want to have to play them in the first round because they're a good team. So, and right now the Lightning have 2 games in hand on both Toronto and Florida. So that's something to keep our eyes on and see where the Lightning end up finishing in the Atlantic Division when we have a lot of division games coming up here in these next 2 months.
I think that's all I had as far as the show goes tonight. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we close out here?
That pretty much wraps it up. It was an awesome Stadium Series game. I can't wait for the Lightning to be back in one soon. Hopefully, that was a 10 out of 10 of experience. Highly recommend people checking out the highlights of that stuff if you somehow missed it. And definitely, if they do get back into one, go. Absolutely go. It's an amazing experience. And then we got 2 hectic months coming up here. And then before you know it, we're going to be talking a lot of trade deadline rumors, which will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
It's fun to get the trade deadline stuff started early. It's always fun to talk about. Like I said, the what ifs are cool to talk about and what if happens. So I think you're going to see some big moves just around the league in general. So a lot to look forward to. Want to give a shout out to our fans, our listeners, our followers. You can follow us on @RBLR Sports on all platforms of social media: Instagram, Spotify, Stitch, YouTube, Facebook. We're there. Twitter. We're posting all kinds of content for you guys. So we appreciate everything. You appreciate all the listens, the subscribes, the comments. Everything you guys are doing and following us. So we're trying to give you guys the best content we can. Hope we're doing that for you. So my final thoughts are, man, 4-game win streak. It's good to be back from Nashville. Obviously that was a tough game outside, cold weather. So I'm glad the boys are back in town. This homestand is huge. Like I said, it's time to get some momentum. Time to get things going. So go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.